I think that we're starting to see a new feud starting to grow. Some of those seeds, we always talk about the breadcrumbs and things like that. The seeds are being planted. This Cody versus Penta match, I'm not done with this match either, bro. I want to see Cody versus Penta part 2, especially with the way that this match ended, right? I mean, Penta seemed to be very aggressive early on, really seemed to have Cody kind of where he wanted him. Cody quickly seemed to take advantage of Penta sort of not putting Cody away. And I don't know if that's a testimony to Cody and his guts, or if if Penta was overly confident and kind of trying to rub a little salt in the wound of Cody, kind of reminding him of who he is, the Lord of Lucha Libre. SPD, dive in, man. Tell me, was this an elite or delete out of you? And what were some of the highlights of this match?
Yeah, it was definitely the lead out of me for sure, because I just love, Penta, of course, his just showboating. I said, I was like, who had a better strut today than, Penta or Kenny Omega? So they both had these like cocky little struts coming out.
Yeah.
And, Penta, there's so many like memes and so many photos and poses. I love how, we talked about showboating before with kind of like the Japanese wrestlers, Makito and all that. But like this little showboating to me is like super fun, like these photos of Penta, absolutely. And, the only gripe I have of the match was like the piped in kind of booing and cheering. You missed the raw chops from Penta that we love so much. He had these chops and Cody just stood up and took them. He's like, give me another one. But they did a great job of hyping the match, kind of throwing it back to Revolution and things like that. And so I thought that was a really fun match, and it was a brutal high energy start. They started right off the gate. And, the vicious armbar by Penta at the end, and then a quick roll-up finish by Cody. I am still, and I don't know if I ever will be a fan of the roll-ups. And we saw 2 roll-up finishes today by 2 superstars, 2 ex-champions. Cody and Mox both had roll-up finishes. And I think roll-ups, they're better than that. People are better than that for sure. So I like the match overall. And Cody win, but the story, like you said, the growing story of the Nightmare family coming out, and then the QT Marshall kind of twist, or like what's going to happen with that, and then you have Penta kind of teasing them as well as the way out, but he's still walking in and out of the babyface tunnel. So I don't know, when you beat someone up after the match, to me that's the heel move. That's like the textbook 101, turning face to heel. Like Scorpio just did that, and he really threw the gauntlet down. And so, but I just like their pairing together. It's fun that they paired in together like that. And I'm excited to see where this goes, and maybe a Nightmare Family Death Golden Trial down the line on that. So,
yeah, I mean, me, I'm going to say this first, right? I think that if they could have 3 tunnels, and just the middle tunnel be guys who don't give a crap about heel or face, I think Lance Archer and Penta would be the first 2 to strut through that one, because I think that Penta sort of has that same mentality, and he has his entire career. Love me or hate me, I don't really care. I'm here to hurt people and to win championships, and I'm going to have fun doing it. And I think that that's Penta's MO. It's been his MO his entire career, really. Yes, he can lean one way or the other, sometimes a little bit more, particularly when depending on who his opponents are. Definitely you're seeing more of that heel tendency coming out against Cody, who is the ultimate babyface, the ultimate good guy. Cody is such an amazing person inside and out the ring. I mean, some of the stuff that we've seen on social with him kind of reaching out and helping children who are disadvantaged and things like that, really inspiring, and reminded me of you and your pick of him being your number 1 pick if you could start a company. Just the ambassador he is. It's easy to root for him, especially in a match like this when he's going against a guy like Penta, who, I think tends to lean into that brutality and that violence, and almost to a point when he's scary. I mean, he has stuff like this, and dude, like, imagine if you and I weren't in our 30s and we were maybe like 7 years old, and you saw a dude like this, you'd be terrified. I mean, Penta brings some fear to, like, when he's his whole persona. He's been to hell and back. I mean, Penta Dark, he's been through some dark stuff in his career, brother. I don't know. I think that I will say this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know that we don't love roll-ups here as a
Yeah.
rule. I don't think that AEW has shown a tendency to lean into the roll-up finish. I think, especially if you get accustomed to what WWE has produced over the
Yeah.
years, AEW's ratio of using those kind of tropes has been much more palatable as a fan.
Yeah.
In this instance, I think that this is the beginning of a feud. And I think
Okay.
that this was clearly two men who have a lot of pride. And this is one of the things that I
Mm-hmm.
talked about on social all week is, these two men take a lot of pride in what they do. They both have had long storied careers. They both in their own right have a lot. I mean, they both have been world champions. They've been champions at all different levels. You have
Right.
to respect the path that they've both had, very different paths to get here. But two men that have bet on themselves, two men that have a lot of pride in who they are, will not back down from anybody. I think that this has got a lot of legs to it. And I think that both of these guys
Right.
can push each other to another level. We talk a lot about that iron sharpens iron. I think that both of these guys are absolute pros. I want to see more of this, especially with what we've
Absolutely.
talked about with Cody and the shoulder. I mean, we've been talking about Cody's shoulder for weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a perfect natural target for a guy like Penta, who, again, we saw attack Cody after the match, and he has that instant bullseye for Penta
Mm-hmm.
to go after. I think that the roll-up finish, SPD, helps kind of protect this feud. And if we see that happen more, yes, I can understand being frustrated. But in this instance, I understood why it was utilized, because it was one of those back and forth matches. You didn't know who was going to win. You could
Yep.
see both of these were equally matched foes. And it was going to be one of those like split second things. Who's going to get the better, who's going to get the better of this one in this go around. The post match antics, SPD.
Yeah, very interesting.
What do you think about how that plays going forward?
I have no idea, honestly. I mean, it's like two different feuds in one. What's going on with QT,
Yeah.
and what's going on with Penta. Maybe Goldust and Penta would be a kind of cool matchup. Not Goldust, Dustin Rhodes. Would be a cool matchup to see.
Mm-hmm.
Dustin back in the ring, and then maybe QT kind of having some kind of like turn on that. I don't really per se want to see like QT and Penta team up in any aspect. That doesn't have any draw for me as of right now, but maybe it'll play out later. But yeah, I don't know. I'm interested. I don't want this feud to end because those are two stars and two of my favorites, Cody Rhodes and Penta El Cerro Miedo. So I'm happy for it and continuing on. And it was a great start to the show.